All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Friday morning. It's 9 o'clock Eastern. And I'm coming at a different time, which is, kind of unique and fun and different. But it's because of James, man. He's in the UK. He's got a big time difference, and he's such a popular, busy guy that it's taken us all of about 4 months to coordinate this.
It has taken a while. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Hey, I had schedule conflicts too, but so everybody, let me introduce James and remind everybody, whether you're watching live, you're watching this on a recording, or you're listening on the podcast. Add your comments, even questions that come in months later. We respond. So throw your comments in, and if you're live, you want to join the conversation, comment, ask questions, and I'm going to refer them all to James because he's a smart guy and he's going to answer everything you needed to know about social selling. How's that sound?
Bring it on.
Work. So everybody, James is a enterprise sales director with Turtle, and I'll let him tell you a little bit about what he does and how and about Turtle, and then we're going to jump right into what the heck he does with social media, especially LinkedIn.
Got it.
Sound like a plan? James, take it away.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, great plan. Thanks for the intro there. I'm hopefully going to be able to, provide some value today. So just a little bit of introduction about myself. I'm James Crisp. I'm an enterprise sales director at Turtle. We're a SaaS content platform, and we're solving the problem of attention. And so, Brandon, as you know, we're all seeing so many messages every day. And I think it's roughly around 5,000, possibly more. And we're getting actively annoyed just by the amount of communications that we're getting. And so we're getting frustrated. It's getting harder to get people's attention. We're getting very, very our attention spans are very, very, very important. And so we need to spend that time wisely. And so for people in marketing on sales, it's getting incredibly difficult to land your message and to secure the attention. And so the Turtle platform provides a scientifically proven way to win 10 times more attention from your digital content, such as hitting business goals like better customer engagement, pipeline, and faster growth. That's a little bit about Turtle.
Perfect. Well, talk to us a little bit about LinkedIn. So the history that I have to share with everybody is James and I go back several years, and I can't even remember, 2-3 years, pre-COVID for sure. So it's probably 3 or 4 years. And I think when we first started talking, James, you were curious about using LinkedIn differently. Is that a fair assumption?
So I think I understood the power of LinkedIn, from a champion standpoint, being able to understand where our personas are and how to navigate a market. Because before LinkedIn, I was selling before LinkedIn, we didn't have anything like this. There was no real sort of insight. There was no one telling me if people were moving jobs, etc., etc. So I understood the power of LinkedIn. What I was trying to come to terms with was, my fear of posting, and the importance of being, out there, and putting myself, in front of, potential customers, where they might, form an opinion about me, positive or negative. And so that's what I was trying to break through. I was trying to break through that fear of not posting. And so I think, as we met on that path, it's quite interesting to speak with you because you're on that journey too. So very, very helpful. So that was really sort of, I think that was coming out of crossroads at that point.
Yeah. And you know what, I think it's so important to talk about that because I think a lot of people are still in that phase. I got a call from a CEO of a company yesterday, and he said, he's like, "Hey, I heard you on the Live Better, Sell Better podcast, and what you were saying kind of resonated with me." He's like, I went out and I commented on a few things. And he's like, they commented back. All of a sudden I was having this conversation with them. He's like, but I'm still so scared to write my own post because he's like, I'm not creative. I don't have time. I'm not sure what to say. And I'm like, come on, that is so not true. You know your industry and all, exactly what to say. And he's like, yeah. So how did you figure that out and overcome it? Because I notice you post about every single day, sometimes twice a day.
Yeah, I've slowed down recently. I need to get back to it. I mean, look, I think
Vacation does that for you.
here's the thing. Like, so I went on this journey called Brand 30, and you know, the guy that leads that, his name is Andrew Metbon. He works for Outreach, and he took me on a bit of his journey, and you know, he taught me through, you know, the ability to post rubbish. Give yourself the permission to post rubbish, because you don't need to help everyone. You only need to help one person out there. And if it's going to help one person, then it's a successful post. And so the more you do that, the more you start working, you know, in a gym, the more you start pumping iron. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. It just becomes a habit, right? And so that fear just fades away because the uncertainty goes away. And so all of a sudden, great things start to happen to you. You know, you start meeting people like yourself, Brandon, right? You're getting many people liking your content, although I feel that's a vanity metric. Like, for me, like, the likes and the comments are absolutely great, but you know, I think a lot of the people that I'm trying to reach don't like or engage, but they're hopefully learning something from me, which does come up in meetings all the time. You know, people are always saying, James, you posted the other day, I saw that. My objective is to be omnipresent. You know, I want to be around the dinner table all the time. Like, if I'm not present, someone else is winning that mind share of my audience.
Yeah.
So really, that's my objective.
Yeah. The other day I was on a live with Tom Burton and Carson Heedy. Carson's a director at Microsoft, and he was sharing about closing a 9-figure deal using LinkedIn. And one of the things he kept repeating over and over again was top of mind, top of mind, top of mind. And there's no better tool in the world than to be top of mind than LinkedIn. And it's because you don't have as much competition as an email. You don't have the competition and the annoyance of the phone. But to be top of mind, you can fully control it. And I love that you talked about the vanity metrics of likes and comments, but those vanity metrics are actually really important to getting our messages wider, right? Getting it out in front of other people. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, I know you think of them as vanity, but I also know that they're really important to you.
So here's the problem. A lot of people, if they feel like they're not getting that engagement, that they haven't been successful. So my point is, don't worry about it. Like, if you don't get engagement, don't worry about it, because you're making influence, you're influencing something. So don't be put off, because a lot of posts are just going to bomb, right? Every post is not going to work for you. And so every post is an experiment, right? And so, like, be guided by the conversations, but don't rely heavily too much on likes and comments as a measure of success, because the post might not be relevant to something that you're selling, right? And so if you're an SDR and you're talking about SDR, you know, practices, right? That's going to resonate with a lot of people. It's going to resonate with a lot of people because SDRs are looking to learn from other SDRs. Is that a product that you're selling, or is that your personal brand you're building? Like, there's a different tactic there. And so that's why I'm saying you need to listen, but don't let likes and comments like guide you too much. Keep focused.
Yeah. It reminds me of a story. Several years ago, I was actually at a conference, and I got a message. I got a chat message from my content hub, and I didn't know the person. And she said, "Hey, Brandon, I've been reading your post for quite a while now, and we have this challenge going on internally. And I was wondering if you thought this is something you guys could help us with." Absolutely, of course. Number one, I had no idea who she was. I'd never seen her name before that I could remember. Um, I was a first connection with her, but I didn't know. I couldn't recall, because I pay attention to who likes my comments or who likes and comments on my stuff. She never engaged, but she was reading everything that I was putting out, or maybe not everything, but she was reading a lot, and it kept me top of mind. And so when that need arose for her, she came to me and said, "I got a problem." And I was the first person she contacted. And I think that's where you say, you know, being in front of people, being there all the time, having this omnipresence. I think that's the value of it for most people. Is that what you were implying there?
So let's flip this. When you say top of mind, I'm hearing top of funnel, right? So this is demand
No.
generation. This is demand generation, right? So demand generation is all about building credibility, brand, insight, educate. It's not about pulling people in, it's about pushing out lots of value, making deposits.
Hmm.
This salespeople need to approach LinkedIn like demand generation. It's exactly the same, but we're doing it as an individual, which is more important because people prefer to deal with individuals than brands. Okay, and if you can both marketing and sales line up on that strategy, boom, like it's going to be incredibly successful. And so that's why I say, like, if you can align to the marketing objectives as well, and marketing can support you, I think you're going to be doing very, very well. We've as
Yeah.
you know, we've launched something called the Social Splash Initiative, and this is at the back of like a huge amount of effort, like in the company, just to be more out there and to build our following. And so, like our followers, we've just peaked over 10,000 now, and so everyone is posting. They're all encouraged to post. Marketing is giving us ideas in which to post. They're not sending us marketing content to post. No one wants to see a golf sale. They want to see some genuine, authentic, like interesting, conversations from salespeople, customer success managers, whoever. And so with that combined, we're just broadening our reach, and the reach is expanding, and more people are seeing us. And so that's in
Yeah.
growing. It's growing our following as a brand. And once you can improve your followers, this is a great place for salespeople and SDRs to start building relationships with those followers, because they put their hand up and they said, this is something that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
You can ask them a simple question: is what is it about our content that you found valuable? You're off to the races at that point, right? And so this is demand generation for salespeople connected to the marketing strategy.
Yeah. So I want to clarify one thing. Top of mind, I do not believe is top of funnel. But I would love for you to keep talking about, because I posted the other day about lead generation versus demand generation. And Tom Burton and I talked about it on a live the other day as well. But you were the first time I heard those terms used that way, and what the difference is from lead gen to demand gen, especially within a salesperson. And you shared a bit about it there, but I think it's so important. I'd love for you to back up and explain, how do you go about now as a sales director creating demand through social media?
Sure. So here's the thing, right? You need to, number one, understand like what's going on in the market space, and the shift that has happened like many, many years ago. So I myself went through a journey of like having a problem which I was trying to solve. I wasn't sure what was going on. And so, I went to, like everyone would, I went to a search engine. That's where you start. And I started to look and trying to diagnose the problems that I was having. And the problems I was having was I had RFPs hit my desk. And like, by the time I got into the RFP, like I wasn't able to have a meeting with the customer. They even put my competitors' products on the RFP thinking it was for me, right? And I was like, well, something's going on here. I haven't been able to get into the sale earlier enough. And so I was always on the back foot. And so I started to try and diagnose this. And so I went online, I found
Mm,
Sales Hacker, I found inbound marketing from HubSpot. I took their courses, and I started to understand that our whole digital presence was built on a brochure where companies speak like, we do this, not we help you do this, right? And so through
mm,
that process, I understood the importance of inbound marketing, or if you want to call it demand generation. And so from that point onwards, I wanted to try and improve, my ability to go out there and be more present in the earlier conversations and research that our customers were having. Okay. And so through that journey, many years later, I encountered Turtle, which is a dynamic interactive content format, which helps you to drive longer attention and engagement. So this was an obvious move for me. And so when you think about creating demand, it comes in many forms. But for me, I think someone asked the question earlier, what do you regard as success on a post? Those engagements and those likes, there's an action that I take from that, and that is a nice connection request, because that's an invitation for me to send in a connection request. And I'm doing that constantly because I've earned the right. I've earned the right now to do that and connect with that individual. If that individual is in my target addressable market, fingers crossed, I can then send something that is valuable to that individual, because my marketing has created lots of great content and assets, right? And like I say, this might be valuable to you based on what I'm seeing in your profile. I'm not asking for anything in return. And I do that like on a constant basis. And so like I'm building connections and conversations, which then turn into a meeting or some type of conversation on the phone. But I'm not going in too early, but I don't want to scare people away. Like lead generation, you sit in there, it's like going into a mall. You call them a mall, we call them a shopping center. And you've got people out there, oh, come and talk to me, come and talk to me. Have you got a mobile phone contract? You're like instantly, oh God, like get me away from this person. I need to run. I don't want to be that person. So everyone that's sending like a connection request and then pitch slapping, like you've got to stop doing that. All you're doing is damaging your persona. You're just damaging your persona. And so instead, just build the relationship, right? Just build a connection with that person. Ask them how their day is going. It's very simple. This is old school, but moved into the digital world. But I think we're training people to go for those transactions these days. Like it shouldn't be about transactions. It should be about deposits. Make lots of deposits, because the interest on those deposits will grow. This is the longer term strategy that you should apply.
James, you said so much nuggets and good stuff and value in that.
Well, thank you. Nonsense.
I would want you to like go back and like dissect each and every little piece. But maybe this is a better way of doing it. And you could leave names out. But can you tell a story about where you referenced the RFP process, and the RFP even had your competitor's name, and so you knew you were late to the conversation. The likelihood of you closing the deal was really small. You were trying to play catch up, and they already had a reference point of which they were going to compare everyone else to. And if you're not that reference point, you ain't getting the deal. I mean, it's going to be really difficult to get it. Got that story. Give a story of, you mentioned things like, I've earned the right to send the reach out. I've earned the right to ask for the meeting. Can you tell a practical story of how your LinkedIn presence, your posting, your activity earned that meeting and turned into a sales opportunity, and hopefully a successful one?
Sure. And so there's two here. There's in-flight deals, and then there's new deals, right? And so like a lot of the work that I'm doing is in complex enterprise selling. And so a lot of the time there's more than one buyer. Okay. And so having a conversation with one persona is not good enough. I need to multi-thread all the time. And so like I'm always trying to use the connections that I'm making to build more connections within the account. But in terms of like starting like greenfield, like fresh, what I will tend to do is I learn about the personas that I want to do business with first. I follow them. So following is great because one, it tells you that someone's followed you. So there's a little notification. James Crisp is following you. My LinkedIn profile is totally like optimized, like due to the customer's context. So I speak to the customer as opposed to what I do. Like that's not important. That's the first thing. And typically what I'll do is I'll follow them and I'll just see who they're commenting on, and I'll see who they follow as well, see who they're learning from. And so what I will start to do is have a think about, okay, so this is the stuff that they're commenting on, this is the stuff that they're interested in, and then I will basically go and join that conversation.
What does that mean? What does that mean for you to join that conversation?
Okay, so now we're going to switch gears slightly to Sales Navigator. So LinkedIn is the inbound engine. Sales Navigator is the outbound engine. With Sales Navigator, you can map out your ideal customer personas, right? And you have an activity stream and everything that they're posting. So it takes away all the noise from LinkedIn. This gives me a quick and easy way every morning to go in and see what's going on. And it allows me in that moment to go and interact, like, comment, do whatever. What I'm trying to do is get their attention. But I think it's what you have to do is you have to break the ice. You have to break the ice a little bit. And so I use that as a way to sort of make, let them know that I'm there, let them know that I'm talking about stuff that they talk about. And I start to get in a dialogue with them, and you've got to apply reciprocity here. So reciprocity is that value exchange up front. So if you start doing things for them, you start commenting and say, this is a great post by so-and-so, they absolutely love that. Connection request, easy after that. That gives you the right to have value in that inbox. Okay. I'm not asking for anything here, but I find every time I do that, I'm having positive conversations about potentially problems that they're looking to solve. And I would recommend everyone starts doing something similar instead of connection request pitch, because you're just short circuiting the whole process there of building a relationship. So let me put this another way.
Go for it.
I'll put this another way. I'm trying to break the ice at scale, right? Because I think that's what people need to do. That's what salespeople need to do. We need to break the ice because generally speaking, people don't trust us. Customers don't trust us. And that's why they're looking for learning on LinkedIn rather than contacting salespeople. They don't want to have those conversations. It's too early for them. And so I want to try and position myself earlier in their journey. And so that's, I think, incredibly important.
Yeah. So what about the sales leader that thinks that everything you just said is too passive or BS or get back to send the connection request and pitch slap and ask for the meeting? What you just said is stop doing that. It's never going to work. How would you convince the sales leader?
You got to look at the broader picture. I'm not saying it doesn't. It might work. You might get lucky, but is it quality or quantity that you're after? And also, like, if you are sophisticated in your approach and you know who your personas are, you've got one opportunity to I'm trying not to swear here. You've got one opportunity to make a good or bad impression, right? And so if you're looking to build a relationship with these personas, you've got to be really careful with that. You just don't go up to people and start pitching them straight away. You just don't do it. And you just don't do it.
Why not? Why not? That's the sales playbook for a lot of companies. 100 outbound calls a day, enroll 30 people in a cadence, and pitch.
Again, you've got to look for the value add. You can do that at scale, but look for the value add. And what you've got to measure, is not so much how many meetings you're booking in that context, but how many people you're pissing off. People opt out. You've got to balance the two, right? If you go outbound and you do that at scale, have really, really good problem-centric messaging, right? And keep adding value. You can cold call, you can do all of that stuff, totally fine, but don't talk about the company, talk about the customer and what you understand about them. You got to put it all onto the customer context. With LinkedIn, you just need a multi-channel approach. With Sales Network, this is a multi-channel approach. You've got to be active in all of these channels because not everyone is active on LinkedIn. They're more active on email or more active on text. And you've got to find where these people spend their time. But if you don't...
Well, and you also have people that are active in social, but they don't post. I love that tool within Navigator. It's going to say, hey, here's everybody in the list you've created that have posted today. But we do know that the number is just over 1% of people that are users of LinkedIn post at least once a month. I mean, there's a lot of people that are looky-loos. How do you go about working? I love what you said. There's a team of people, so there's lots of people that you need to go influence. You need to be in front of them. You need to be top of mind, not top of funnel. You need to be top of mind with them to build that rapport relationship. What do you do with other people? I know there's always the phone, there's always the email, but how do you go about trying to engage with folks that are on LinkedIn but may not post as much?
Yeah, great question. I mean, so you can't control people, and their actions, but certainly, like if someone isn't posting like their own authentic content, you've got to think about like what you've got to think about is maybe looking at some of the groups that they're following and the influences that they're following. You can, I mean, most people I would say are commenting or at least liking, doing something fairly straightforward like that. And what you can do is you can ask a question based on something that they've liked before and say, look, I found that interesting that you like this. Is this something that you are struggling with? We do A, B, and C, and this could be interesting for you. You have to sort of spend a little bit of time just sort of trying to find the nugget in which you can use to get their attention. But I would recommend if you haven't done some kind of connection, like some kind of interaction with them before the connection, you're less likely to get the connection request. I also recommend if you do send connection requests and after 2 weeks they haven't accepted, pull it back, because you can pull it back and you've got another chance. You can go again, right? So then try something else to get their attention and keep going.
Yeah. I talked to a sales leader the other day that was asking questions around, well, how do we automate this and how do we do this easier? And at the end of our conversation, he said, you know what I think I took from you is things have changed and it's a new skill set. This isn't about how we use social media fast. It's about how do we develop the skills in order to use social media well. And I said, that's why I have this shirt, right? Because I think social selling sucks to capture attention, because the way so many people have used it in the past is they want it to be a quick hit. And everything I've heard you say, James, isn't the quick hit. It's actually, you've used the term deposits, right? You've used making deposits. You've used the term adding value. Use the term you got to go find out where they are. You got to go find out what the hot topics are. You're basically using social media to eavesdrop on what's going on in their life so that you can turn around and add value. Is that a fair way to assess everything that you've been saying?
I don't know if eavesdrop is the right word there, Brandon.
Hey,
but
I know that's a hard term to hear, but we get to listen in.
So here's the thing, right? So when you're there's quick wins here as well. If you are following like the influencers, that your personas are following, right, and they post regularly. Okay, there's so many meetings in those comments, because you can then switch that conversation to an email and reference the post, right? Reference the fact that you have something that could be of interest to them. And we do very well at that, and we get a lot of meetings that way. When you say eavesdropping, I like to think really what I'm trying to do is diagnose. I'm trying to understand if we help them or not, right?
Because you're listening.
I'm listening.
Maybe that's a better word.
We're listening for where we can help, where we can't help. And again, just trying to drive that quality at all times for people that sales is all about timing, isn't it, at the end of the day? And that's why lead generation is used. Like, you have to be lucky and you have to have the right time and territory to be good at lead generation, right? Because the conversions will be difficult. With the different mindset, like if you do it every day, you do a good job, you're not going to get a lot of return at the start. Like with posting, like not everyone engages at the start, but the longer you do it for, it will grow like a snowball. And the cumulative impact of that is just you've now got bigger reach than you've ever had in the market that you're focusing on, which means that you have more opportunity to connect with those personas, because you're connected to their connections, you're engaging with their comments, being part of the community. This is about a community, right? This is a community, and you're being part of that community, as opposed to someone that's lurking on the outside and dipping in every so often, trying to catch someone out. So you only get out what you put in, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's probably a really simple and accurate summary of social. You only get out what you put in. If you come in and come out, you're not part of the community.
it comes back to that trust, right? If people get to know you, like we talk about these personal posts, like I think they're really good at helping people to understand, like as a salesperson, like you are not like just after their budget, right? There's a mutual value in connecting and solving their problems and meeting our targets. There's always has to be parity in that. But if you can be out there sharing your stories, talking about what drives you, your passions, people feel more inclined to want to talk to you. You know, they're like, oh, James, this is a big guy, Brandon. Like, Brandon's, doing this podcast. I'm learning a lot from him. I feel comfortable contacting him, as opposed to someone that doesn't do that. Like, you're just missing out.
Right. Along those lines, as we're wrapping up, are your daughters still on just this big emotional high with the Lionesses dominating European football this past weekend?
So I was at something called Festival on Sunday. So Festival is like Glastonbury, but for families. And so there was thousands of people there. And normally there was music playing, but in this huge, huge tent, the women's football was playing. And I've never seen a scene like it before. And I think it's so good. Like, I've got 2 daughters, and I feel so inspired, like, by these ladies who are bringing it home now, finally. Because they're watching them, and like anything's possible, and it's so great. So, couldn't be happy with that. Everyone's on a high. It's but in the UK, it's been really difficult, like for the ladies to sort of the football to pick up. And I think like this is a big sort of moment in time where that's going to be changed for the good forever. So it's fantastic.
I always cheer on your Lionesses, except if they're going to play the American women in next year's World Cup. Then that's where my allegiance is going to stop. And then the men's World Cup we got this year, we're in the same group at the beginning. So the two teams I support, the U.S. and England. But when it comes down to it, my ancestors left your island a long time ago. So.
Well, you guys are always welcome back.
Appreciate it. Well, James, I really enjoyed your journey with social, and I've learned a lot from you as well in this journey, and I really appreciate that. And thanks for coming on and sharing. I'd love to have you come back sometime, because you said some things that it was just very natural for you that I'd love to pick apart and let people understand. But for anybody listening or watching, how's the best way for them to get in touch with you or to learn a little bit about Turtle?
I thought that would be obvious. LinkedIn, just connect with me on LinkedIn. James Crisp. I've got a nice little turtle on my name. You can't miss it. Just get in touch with me directly.
Perfect. And we'll put everything in the notes for everybody on the podcast as well, with direct links to both James and to Turtle. So, hey, James, I really appreciate you sharing your journey and being authentic with it. And I think it was hopefully it was very motivating for people that are still sitting on the fringe going, I don't know what to post. I don't know, is this really going to work? It feels passive. And I really appreciate that. And, oh, Wayne, hey, thanks. I just saw your comments pop up. Thanks for joining us. He's a fellow Brit. You guys should connect. Wayne, you could probably learn a lot from watching James and what he does. So there we go. Everybody, thanks so much, and happy Friday. James, anything last words you want to say before we cut out?
No, I mean, like, I hope this was valuable for everyone. More than happy to spend time and just connect with me. I can answer questions, but you've got to try this at least. And you have to understand, like, this isn't going to slow down. This is only going to get faster. So don't fall behind. These young SDRs, like, they are going to be so damn good at this that you might become a dinosaur if you don't move fast. So there's some encouragement for you.
Well, assuming the SDR is in an organization that allows it, right? There's a lot of SDRs that are really beating their heads up against the wall because, I get the messages all the time. It's like, my KPIs are 100 cold calls a day and enroll 20 people into a cadence a day. When do I have time to do this? I'm like, you might be in the wrong company, or you do it on your own time until you can prove that this is going to outweigh the time that you spend getting hung up on and leaving voicemail.
There you go. You said it.
Oof. Okay. James, thanks so much again. And everybody, we'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Yes. Bye bye.